not dictated by a deity. It's developed from empathy, dependence, and love. My morality accepts everybody's sexuality, is more concerned with inequality and the validations from above. My morality is not set into stone tablets.
We are surrounded by politicians that are not very understanding. We talk about atheism and how we get discriminated against, but another very prominent group that is discriminated against is homosexuals. And basically we decided to try to look up some of the wonderful quotes from the politicians in this wonderful country of ours that talk about homosexuality, and I wanted to see which of these girls could come up with some of the worst quotes from those different politicians. So, do you want to go first with your quotes?
Okay.
Okay.
I just need, if you could hand me my laptop, I've got a quote from Mike Huckabee, former presidential
can't lose with that
candidate. Yeah, he's like comedy gold. He never disappoints.
Do you guys know yours?
Yeah, I've got one.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, sure. Okay, so I wanted to go with the classic Rick Perry advertisement. I wrote it down, but I don't have it with me. But he said something to the tune of, "You don't have to sit in a pew in this country to know that something's wrong when we have gays openly serving in the military, but our children can't celebrate Christmas in schools." It's classic Rick Perry.
Because that equates evenly right there.
And
Oh,
children
yeah.
can celebrate.
And they can celebrate Christmas in school.
They
Yeah.
do. They just call it winter holiday. And then all of a
Oh,
sudden
the
Santa's
travesty.
there.
The funny thing about that is holiday. Holy day. Is it really that bad? Is it so secular? I mean, if secular people were really going to go freaking out, they would get mad about the word holiday. I think winter holiday is fine. I don't know why they get so pissy
Or
about
winter
that.
break, or I don't know. I don't see what the big deal is. Like, why do we have to celebrate holidays in school? Like, why do we need to decorate the room for Valentine's Day and then St. Patrick's Day and then whatever happens next, Memorial Day, or all of those wonderful
I'm not really
holidays?
a holiday person.
Exactly.
myself. I don't.
I never
understand
understood it.
And we don't really do the. I cannot read that. Oh, okay. I can't read far away. I'm nearsighted.
I need to be better ED.
But basically, what we do, we don't even celebrate any holidays. Daniel and I don't even celebrate birthdays. Like, we don't really make a big hullabaloo.
That's so much fun.
I was
Well,
a Jehovah's Witness. We don't
He's
care.
Jehovah's Witness, and the other thing is the main thing that everybody likes to do is eat cake and sing music at you and stuff like that. I can't eat cake; it makes me very sick.
I feel ya.
When people sing at me, or when the restaurant people do that, it makes me extraordinarily uncomfortable. I don't like it at all. Like, I don't know what part about it is fun. Presents, that's about it.
Exactly. That's why you have parties. It's for all of the presents. Who cares about the cake and the ice cream? Whatever. You can do other things that taste 10 times better. Like, do like a tapas party instead and just put candles in it.
All right, you can do a party for me sometime.
Okay,
I'll let you throw it.
I've got it. Mike Huckabee is weighing in, of course, on the Supreme Court reviewing the Defense of Marriage Act,
Mm-hmm.
and whether that's a good idea or not to have gay marriage. And he says the mistake is that we sometimes base our public policy decisions on how we feel, how we think, maybe even some personal experiences. And we don't regard a lot of these issues from the standpoint of an objective standard. He doesn't come right out and say that biblical morality is his objection in this article to gay marriage, but then he goes on to say that on this issue, I recognize the culture is moving away from the traditional standard, but it's almost like saying, well, we have a basketball team, and nobody on that team can hit the goal that's 10 feet off the floor, so we're going to lower the goal down to 6 feet, and that way everybody can slam dunk the ball. So, yeah, what?
I
What is he
really don't
talking
understand
about,
these
right?
equating issues that are going on here.
Well, is he saying that gay men can't get women, so they're going for men? Is that?
Yes, or they can control their homosexual urges like they should traditionally. So we're letting them give in and do their weakness, I suppose, and
Okay.
shoot that 6-foot goal instead of the gold standard of marrying a woman. I guess the male-female marriage.
Are you honestly trying to make that make sense?
Just giving him credit.
No, I'm just
No.
trying to tell you where he's.
I
trying
don't-
to figure out where he's coming from.
I think he's absolutely nuts.
Definitely. The fun one that I found was from Arnold Schwarzenegger when he was, governor. And what he ended up saying was, I had it on there.
Okay.
I'm losing that. It's okay. I don't need to hear myself. What Arnold Schwarzenegger ended up saying was, I think that gay marriage is something that should be between... I lost it, damn it. I think gay marriage is something that should be between a man and a woman.
You didn't do it in the right accent.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't do Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm not that good. But basically, he thinks gay marriage should be something between a man and a woman. Gay marriage, man and a woman, doesn't make sense in the least bit. Happy marriage should be between a man and a woman. That might work.
Michaelyn and Amanda, I know that you guys are busy with Reason Fest, but some people want an update on what's going on with Amanda Brown's father.
I just want to also say, you guys have to hurry through this. This can't be a long talk. I do want to have you on the show, and we could do a radio show, and there won't be technical difficulties, and things will actually come out right. But you guys they are calling you to go out there and help out with stuff. So just real quick, what's going on with your father for right now, like the update for the people that already know the story.
And I'm actually gonna step out because I actually don't know what's going on, so I'm gonna. But
Okay,
thank you so much.
Thank you for being on.
Awesome. Basically, what's going on with my father, Roger Gorley, and his partner, Alan Mansell, is as of right now, we are going through talking with the ACLU to do litigation against the Research Medical Center, which is an HCA hospital. If you are familiar with the Kansas City area, you will realize that the HCA hospitals are basically a monopoly here. There are only 2 hospitals in the entire Kansas City metro area that are not HCA. And those are basically, there's KU Med, because it's a college institution, and then there is the UMKC research facility, which isn't really a hospital so much as a research facility. So you don't really get options to go somewhere that isn't HCA affiliated. And so what they're planning on doing is hopefully suing the hospital for what we find as damages. He was charged with disorderly conduct and trespassing for not leaving his partner's bedside. And what the hospital ended up violating was with the Affordable Care Act that Obama put through in 2010 is basically when it came to your sexuality, it didn't matter whether you were male or female. When you wanted someone to stay with you in your hospital room, you just say, I want this person to stay with me. And they should be allowed to stay with you. It doesn't matter if they're married or not. It shouldn't matter if they're your best friend. If you want that person, it's supposed to be what's in the best interest of the patient. And so the fact that Alan wanted his partner there, and he said he wanted my father to stay with him, and the nurse still went ahead and called the police anyway to have my dad forcefully removed, was a direct violation of the Affordable Care Act. On top of what has happened after the fact with HIPAA violations between the nurse and Alan's brother Lee, as well as HIPAA violations on their Facebook page talking about my father-in-law's health situation, and also just basically police brutality as well with how he was arrested and how he was taken in, and just basic discrimination and humiliation and degradation is basically what happened. And now he's healing. Alan is at home as of Wednesday of this week. He spent an entire week in the hospital. A lot of horrible things happened with that. That wasn't good. That's a long story. but I won't get into it. But they're home now, they're happy, they're healing, and trying to get back together, still trying to figure out how to get to Amsterdam, because that was something that ended up getting ruined. The day that he was put into the hospital was the day that they were supposed to be flying out. They wanted to go to a city where they could be accepted for who they are. Amsterdam was one of the first places to accept gay marriage and see gay couples, recognize them as equal. And they wanted to go there and be okay to walk down the street hand in hand, to be able to kiss in public. I think a lot of us take that for granted. You cannot, when it is a same-sex couple, especially in this area, they live in Lee Summit, Missouri, which is a little more conservative. That is one of the things that is the most difficult thing. I go out with my dad to restaurants, and they think my dad and I are married and have a kid, and that we have some guy with us. My dad looks really young, but they don't ever think that my dad and Alan are married, and that's their grandchild, and I'm the daughter. That just doesn't occur to them that that's how it is. And so when my dad takes the grandkids out, and it's just him and his partner and the kids, it is very uncomfortable and very scary, because they get looks as though something bad might happen, even though there are small children present. And so what we want to do with all of this is take it to a national level, get a press release to SCOTUS, basically, and let them know, look, this is why we want you guys to look at what's going on at the Supreme Court level. We want you to pass, to say DOMA is unconstitutional, and we want you to go ahead with Prop 8 and say, gay marriage is legal in California, this is ridiculous, it shouldn't be something that's put to a vote. You should never be able to vote for someone's civil rights. That is ridiculous. We shouldn't be debating this. This should be something that is obvious to everyone. This is 2013. It is obvious that we are all humans. We all strive for happiness, whether that's in different ways, and it's time for us to stop fighting each other over something so silly as who you love. And that's mainly what they want to get out of all of this.
Okay, what do you say to people who say that even though you know that your father and his partner had all of these protections in place, they had a power of attorney, and they hit the screensaver?
Yeah, I don't know. There we go. Oh, we're still on. Okay, sorry.
They had a power of attorney in place, and they had a domestic partnership. What do you say to people that say that you're redefining marriage and gay people can already have domestic partnerships, so why should gays be able to marry as well as heterosexuals?
Because it's not the same thing. It has none of the same protections that my husband and I have at all. They don't get to file jointly on their tax returns. They don't get any of the tax benefits that married straight couples get. They don't get to be recognized, at least in the state of Missouri, as even being married. The power of attorney doesn't really hold up. It can still be contested by family members because they're not blood related and their marriage isn't recognized. So it's not a legal, as much as it is a legal document, it doesn't matter in the state of Missouri. Even though they have a civil union and it's been presented to the state, it still doesn't really matter. A judge can look at it and be like, it's just a piece of paper. No worries.
Also, people like the n0nes don't recognize a domestic partnership either. If they had the right to marry, he could have simply said, "This is my husband."
And that is what he simply said, and it should have just been respected regardless. But because that nurse decided at that moment to be bigoted and not just do her job, that she basically just said, "I'm going to go ahead and push my beliefs on you. And since I'm not agreeing with your relationship and that it's a valid relationship, I'm going to make you suffer." And the way that they went about treating my father is unacceptable and nearly unforgivable. But I think it can be a learning experience, not only for the hospital, but for this country. I think we can go from this and see, okay, we don't treat people like this anymore. We treat people like human beings. We're all equal, and we're going to go ahead and, when it comes to medical care, treat everyone equal, and it should go beyond that, but at a bare minimum, with baby steps in this country.
Also, how do you answer the hospital's assertion that it was your father's fault for disruptive behavior and that they weren't actually discriminating against him?
I call that out as bullshit. I don't know if that's acceptable. I call that out as bullshit, 100%. They say they have video, If they have video and they weren't scared stiff of this process going to litigation, then they would have released it. They would have released it. They know they fucked up. They know what they did was wrong. And they've tried to fix it by meeting with my father alone. They would not apologize for what happened. They would not take responsibility for what happened. And they want to say that he was the one being belligerent. But, I mean, think about this. If you're standing next to your partner and the nurse asks you to leave and your partner is asking for you to stay, what are you going to do? You're going to stay. You're going to tell that nurse that they need to shut up. And they need to go about their job. You're not in their way. And that you're going to stay. That's that.
How long have you been married?
I've been married for 7.5 years now.
And you care for your husband every day, right? And you're a regular part of his everyday life. How would you feel if somebody asked you to leave his hospital room even though he wanted you to be there?
I would be devastated. Just absolutely devastated and frustrated. I would have the same look that was on my father's face that I will never get out of my mind, which was just fear, disgust, degradation, and humiliation. I have never seen the look on my father's face that he had that day. And it made me want to just run up to him and hold him and tell him everything's going to be okay, that this is what I fight for. We're not going to let this go, and we're going to make sure that your rights are not violated again. If that happened to me with my husband, let's just pretend like everybody in this country is homosexual and heterosexuality is, just not allowed. If it happened to me, I would be fighting for the same rights as everyone else, because we are humans. I think that's the ultimate message the LGBT community and anyone that's treated differently wants to get out there, is we are still all humans. We may disagree, but we are all trying to pursue happiness in our own way, and as long as it's safe, sane, and consensual, or does not cause some sort of dramatic amount of harm, and you have to think of harm in a variety of ways, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. If it doesn't cause harm, then why are you legislating against it? There's no problems.
Yeah, when I married Amanda, I married a great woman, but I inherited an amazing father. I grew up without a dad, so Roger is the only dad I'm probably ever going to have, and I've told him time and time again, if I can be half the father he was to his daughters, that would be amazing, and I love him like a dad, and so to see him treated that way, and for people to think that their marriage is invalid and not as special, I mean, and yet I see how well he takes care of my granddaughter and how well he took care of his kids, working 3 jobs to raise them. He's no less of a man, no less of a husband than any other person I've ever met. More so.
Yeah.
And so for him to be that amazing, and for the government to say, why don't you just go marry a woman, and that's the best solution they can come up with, it's saddening. It really is. So.
And see, a lot of people try to talk about how this is all about their rights, but they don't realize that there's also other people that are hit in the crossfire of this kind of discrimination and bigotry. You guys are affected by this too. Your children are affected by this too. They have to see their grandpa being treated differently by the rest of the world, and that is not right.
Yeah, I mean, Lily did not have I should point this back to myself. Lily didn't have a good reaction. Lily is our 4.5-year-old daughter, and her grandpas are her world. She loves her Papa Alan, and she loves her Pocky, which is what she calls my dad. We have no idea why. And she loves them to death. And for her to have to go a week and keep asking, where's Papa Alan? Why isn't he here? For her to have to do that and not understand. And she was actually there when he was taken away. And that was really hard for her. She didn't understand what was going on or why the police were there. We had 5 policemen and 4 paramedics just all over the place, just going through all of his stuff, and she didn't know why. And you can't explain it to her, she's too little to really understand. And so I just had to tell her, well, Papa Alan is sick, and so they're here to help, and hopefully they'll listen to us, and they'll be gone shortly. And then he was taken away, and she started crying and didn't know what to do. And so I'm trying to get her in the car and calling my dad to tell him that they're taking away his husband to the hospital, and I don't know why they're not listening to me, but they're not. And so it was just very traumatic, and she had a very hard time the next few days. Kids don't react very well in those situations, so she had temper issues and wedding issues. Like, she usually makes it to the potty, and all of a sudden, for the next few days, she couldn't make it anymore.
And I think looking at it from a kid's perspective, like, we need to approach it that way as well, to understand that there are plenty of even Christians out there that, like, well, gay people are okay and that's fine. It's like, then you guys need to be pushing for gay marriage too. My mom is still very Christian, and when we were in Austin at the American Atheist National Convention, she stayed with my daughter, and we found out, she told my 4.5-year-old that 2 boys kissing isn't okay. And we didn't talk for a couple weeks after this. She also taught her how to ask Jesus into her heart, which was a lot bigger of a deal. Ridiculous. But I mean, to explain to my daughter, and she sees it in society, because society yet doesn't make it acceptable. We were sitting on the bed playing the other day, and she says, Pocky and Papa Allen, who's the woman, Daddy? And I said, no, they're both boys. That's okay. They love each other and they're married. She goes, well, I think Pocky's the wife. I said, no, honey, they're both husbands. She goes, can we make Pocky the wife? It'll be our secret. And it was just sad that in her head, she needed to have one be a man and one be a woman, because that was the only way society has taught her that works. And I'm like, I shouldn't have to explain it to my 4.5-year-old. It shouldn't even be an issue, but it is. And it hurts me as a father to have to try to rationalize and explain to her why society is so messed up, and why her grandmother thinks 2 boys kissing is wrong. And it luckily, she trusts us more, and we can drill that stuff out of her head. But it's a sad conversation to have with a 4.5-year-old.
And this is something she wouldn't even be discussing, wouldn't even notice, she wouldn't even bat an eye at it if there wasn't people trying to arrest him, and there wasn't people trying to tell her that it's right for a boy and a girl to be together, not a boy and a boy. It wouldn't even be something she even noticed.
It honestly...
They're the ones sexualizing this stuff.
Yeah.
Right. It honestly never was for her. She was the most gender-blind, loving, even when it came to skin color differences, she just didn't see any of that for the longest time. And then here, over the past 6 months, when she's starting to kind of acclimate to being around other children and other different families and all these different things. It's not that she didn't before, but she just didn't notice it until it started to become an issue in her life because of her grandfather.
What are some things you can suggest that people could do to, one, help your father with his legal costs, and 2, to help get push for legalization of gay marriage?
I think what people need to do right now is, what's going on with SCOTUS is write statements, write letters, get them in front of the Supreme Court, tell your story. I know this has not just happened to my father. I have been inundated with emails from people around the country that had worse things happen to them, where they were ripped away from their partner and their partner died before they ever saw them again. And to go that far in this country, to allow someone to die without their partner by their side, that's wrong. And we need the Supreme Court to realize this is enough. Unfortunately, you may not agree with what you did with Roe v. Wade. You may have thought that was too liberal of a decision for this country, but it wasn't. It saved women's lives, and we need to do this again.
And a lot of this,
we need to save lives again.
I would say a lot of this doesn't have to wait until it's federally legal. As Amanda said, with Obamacare passing in 2010, a mandate that is already on the books that she had described is hospitals cannot discriminate on visitation rights. So just going to your local hospital, stop by an HR department and say, hey, I just want to know, I'm a resident of the city, I'm a customer of your hospital, I'm a patient here once in a while. Do you guys have HR policies in place that train your staff? Do you have posters? Do you have it posted? Is it part of your training that your nurses realize that this is the law? Make sure they know. We still at this point don't know, if HCA, in this case, if the hospital failed to train them or if she violated the training. Either way is wrong. But if they failed to train, then the hospital needs to fix this. They need to go to have a special meeting with all their staff and say, look, this is now part of the way we operate as a hospital. Let's not let this happen again.
I think what's happening here is a bystander effect. A lot of people think that they can't do anything.
Yeah.
They think that they are helpless. You're not. I didn't even know that this was a problem at all until you guys brought it to the forefront, and I'm sure a lot of people have said the same thing. People need to talk. They need to speak up. They need to go and tell people that this needs to change. I actually have a couple of friends that have never understood the point of gay marriage. Mm-hmm. They always said that. But when your story was posted, they were like, oh, that's messed up. This is important to get these stories out, because nobody wants to see that happen to anybody.
The hospitals are still businesses. In the end, I mean, libertarian friends might like this, that, you know, you going and saying, I'm going to take my money to another hospital down the road that does train their staff, that doesn't discriminate, because you guys don't have policies in place to prevent this for my loved ones, and frankly for strangers that go through this. I don't, you know, I may not know those people, but I don't want it to happen to them either. And if you don't fix this, I'm taking my business elsewhere. You know, it's a free market solution to a really simple problem that can be fixed. But you're right, it just takes people walking into a hospital and going to the HR department and just asking for 5 minutes to talk to them. Anyone can do that. They're not going to kick you out of the hospital.
Well, one important thing to point out, though, is that maybe some people don't have the funds and need to be at a charity hospital, so
True.
going to another hospital is not always
Right.
a good possible.
Right, and I mean, every hospital, obviously, by law, should be doing this right now. So we're going to work with Health and Human Services and the ACLU to make sure that this is something that's brought up federally. Like, make sure hospitals know that this is the law, and it's got to stop. It's got to
And
stop.
people, if you've been through this kind of discrimination, I mean, this goes with everything. I'm going to make this a very blanket statement with atheism, with being homosexual, being any kind of discrimination that goes on in your life. You need to let people know, let journalists know, get out PRs, do the things that need to be done to get that story out there for everybody to see, because that's the only way we can change things is with information. And you can't just go and talk to a friend and go, oh, this happened to me, it was really sad, and then let it end there, because nobody else will know that story. Nobody else will be able to understand what's going on in this country. So you have to get the word out, and you have to make sure that somebody knows about your story.
It's very much an issue of public opinion, influencing
Right.
public opinion and values.
Right, and I, for the sake of time, if you want to go in and support my father and help us with the legal fees and things like that, there is a fund at GoFundMe.com. It's actually on the first page because it's trending so well, so you can just click on it.
There's a link on We Are Atheism.
And there's a link on We Are Atheism and my Facebook page and things like that, and I'm sure they'll have a link below.
Yes, when we do the video.
when it's a video. So you can go and do that. Other things that you can do is, whether it's money or not, I think all of us have time. And take the time to get to know the people around you. Get to know the people around you and get them excited or infuriated, whichever it needs to be. Sometimes you got to get people a little angry before they'll act. And share not only my father's story, but a lot of other people's stories that have come out through this. If you read through the comments on weareatheism.com in the blog section with this story, you'll see a lot of other people coming out and saying, this happened to me, this happened to my partner, or this happened to my aunt and her lover. And they're starting to share their stories just a little bit more. So just share it. Talk about it. Talk about it with people you wouldn't normally talk about it with. If this is your mom who is, older and takes a very conservative viewpoint, just talk to her about it anyway. Give people the benefit of the doubt of being able to listen to something they normally wouldn't listen to. Because unless you bring it up, then it's never going to change. So,
That's
on that
awesome. Did you want to plug any more
We can-
charities or anything, or do you want to just?
Yeah, I know due to the time, because
Yeah, so let's make this a quick one.
I know you have to step out. If
Yeah.
you need to
Go ahead.
Um,
Thank you so much for being on here, Amanda.
You guys are very welcome.
I'll just get a real more
Thank you.
comfortable chair.
Okay.
There you go.
No, as far as, not even really so much a plug, but I know you and I have spoken about it, that part of what weareatheism.com does that actually started after the Sandy Hook massacre. We realized that we're big supporters of people like Foundation Beyond Belief. Great organization that does stuff 365 days a year. But shortly after that, not only us, but several atheists that are in our networks on atheismresource.com's Facebook page and We Are Atheism Facebook page were just asking, do you guys know of a relief agency that we can give to help with this that is secular? And other than places like the Red Cross that have huge overhead and your funds don't necessarily go directly to the victims, we didn't find it. And it just overnight we threw up a page, and we're working on our 501c3 status, and we have paperwork filed, so we should have it by the end of the year. We realized, look, we're a business, we almost have our charity status. Let's just do this ourselves. And within a matter of a week, we raised $25,000 to send to those victims. We've now since done it again for the Boston marathon explosion, and we've raised almost $30,000, or a little over $30,000 at this point, just in a few days.
I don't think you gave us the name of the organization.
Sure, absolutely. It's called Atheists Giving Aid, and you can go to weareatheism.com to find it. It's all kind of under one umbrella. But and there's been a lot of national organizations that are really going to get behind this and support it, and again, hopefully we can position ourselves as the disaster relief fund. There's plenty of atheist charities that do stuff year round, but we really want to help out when there is a national tragedy, when there is a national disaster, a hurricane, a shooting, an explosion, something like that. That atheists go, man, I want to help. Give some money to Atheists Giving Aid. And then part of what makes us unique in that regard is that we know from these conventions and people like you, is we have connections in cities, at least states all across the country, and we're able to locate people, atheist groups in the region that can vet the local charities and funds to make sure they're secular. Some of them, in some cases, like with Sandy Hook, we had people contact us that lived in Newtown that were atheists that said, I know a couple of the families, we can give them checks directly, and cut out the middleman charities and things like that. So that really helps. And like with the Boston situation, Harvard Humanists, the Boston Atheists, and the Secular Coalition for America Massachusetts chapter are doing that groundwork locally for us. So we can raise the money nationally and internationally, get them the money, and then they can distribute it on a local level to make sure that it stays completely secular and never goes through a religious charity.
Was there, I heard some talk about there were some issues with getting the money to people because we were either, I don't know if it was your organization or another group that was secular.
For Boston or for another
Boston.
situation? We haven't run into that problem.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I mean, again, because
I think I know what you're talking about. Zachary over
Zachary
Boston
Boss?
Atheist.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was talking about trying to go and talk to people.
Yeah. This is
in government, and they were turning him away just because he's an atheist.
Yeah, this should upset any of you. So Zach emails me, because we had set this up with him the day before. He emails me at night and says, hey, can I go and commit some of your funds? Now at this point we had raised $20,000 in like 18 hours. I think we had $25,000 in like the first 24 hours. So he gets me when we're right at 20. I said, hey, go ahead and tell him we will commit. There's a fund called onefundboston.org. And we committed $10,000 to that because they were going to throw a community grieving thing that Obama came and spoke at. Again, put on by the governor. It's supposed to be non-religious. Obviously, there was religious leaders there to pray and do all the other things, but it was supposed to be interfaith. It was supposed to be open to the community. Yet when the local atheist groups there, which have a very large following, I mean, they have hundreds of people in these groups in Boston, but they weren't allowed in. And even when they said, we'll hand you a $10,000 check at the door, can we be part of it? They were still turned away. It just blew us away. We have a non-religious event, even though they're led by religious leaders, put on by the state, sponsored by the governor, attended by Obama, and they feel like non-believers should be left out when we're grieving just as hard. In fact, one of the victims that lost both of her legs is the daughter of one of the volunteers for Harvard Humanists. I mean, so they're very well connected to this tragedy. I mean, someone that they know and care about lost both her legs in this explosion, but somehow we're not allowed to be part of the grieving process.
I think that's really bad though, because I get mad when these leaders just even mention as if it's a God thing or mention a religious kind of aspect in their speeches, because I feel like that alone is discriminating against non-believers. But on this one, they're actually, you have to go away.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't make sense that it was set up as a secular interfaith, everyone come together. It's affected all of us. Yet they didn't mean everyone. They meant everyone but us. Because somehow, again, the atheist is still taboo, and they feel it somehow mars the image of the event, that it is a bad thing to have us there. And that, and again, the dichotomy that they will pray and they'll ask God for healing and to help the families, but none of them blame their God for not letting this happen in the first place. I mean, if their God was real, he could have stopped this. And none of them will have that conversation. I think they're scared that if we come to the events, we're going to make that conversation happen, and that's why they keep us out.
I don't understand their basis for excluding us. The non-religious are 20% of the population here, and we helped elect Obama. Mm-hmm. Why do we not have a political voice too? Why are our concerns dismissed or excluded?
Yeah, as far as I know, the organizers of the event, I don't think it made it all the way to Governor Deval Patrick's office. Obviously, the Obama administration probably heard nothing of this, and I would like to think, knowing that we are such a large part of the electorate, that they would have made a different decision. it happened quickly. Had this been a week or so out, we probably could have fought it and gotten the decision changed, but it only had about 48 hours to make this happen, and we just couldn't get through the right channels. The people in charge said no, and you're right, it's not just you that doesn't understand. None of us did. We were shocked by that, and Greg Epstein from Harvard Humanist wrote a really nice blog about it, explaining
Yeah, that was a good one.
explaining why, and why, again, not an outrage, just a bit of disbelief. Like, really, like, in a time like this, why can't we come and grieve with the rest of you? Like somehow we don't care, that we're not equally hurt, that we didn't cry the day this happened too. It's upsetting to us. It really, they try to disavow us as Americans and disregard our emotion. We're humans too. I mean, we know people there that were hurt. I had friends in Boston I was trying to call that day because I didn't know. I had friends that I knew were going to be at the race because they're marathon fans, and I didn't know when it happened if they were in the 170 that got injured. We care too.
It's a shame. It seems like the religious in this country get the lion's share of attention from our government, even though we pay taxes as well. Their concerns are voiced, and ours are shushed.
Yeah, I mean, we had a debate in the parking lot like last night. Shelley Segal and I, a couple of theists had come here, Christians, just to see what it was all about, and we gave them mad props for just having the courage to come here and sit and listen and discuss with us. I mean, great guys. We got their cards, and we plan on having coffee with them sometime to talk about it further. But I mean, they really did look at, when we say Second Amendment, Congress shall pass no law respecting establishment of religion, they immediately come in or prohibit the free exercise thereof. And they assume that us telling them you can't have religiously motivated laws, like if the only reason you want to stop gay marriage is because the Bible says gay is bad, like if that's your only reason, you have no secular answer, you can't make a law on that. And they go, but that's restricting our religious freedom of passing religious laws. Like, it's just this huge black and white. They literally don't see our side of it. They think us trying to keep them in churches and in their homes with their religion is us restricting their free right to practice their religion, because part of their religion is shoving it down the throats of everybody else. And as soon as we close our mouths and say, not in this throat, we're somehow discriminating against them. It's really amazing.
They feel like they should have the right to be religious in government.
Yeah.
And
it's part of their religion and their mindset.
But whenever you throw at them, what if it was a Muslim faith that was doing that to them?
And that stopped the conversation last night. I said, what happens, not even just Muslims, and I told them, if it ever got to where, and will, when our country is 51% atheist, if a bunch of atheists got together and said, we're going to make Christian marriage illegal, I would stand on the side of Christians and go, no, you're not. That's wrong. And I told the Christians, I said, what would you think? Since obviously Christianity is a choice, you're not born a Christian, obviously it's a choice. And if you choose to be a Christian and we can pass laws based on things that are a choice, then we're going to decide that you're not allowed to legally be married. What do you think about that? And they didn't have a good answer, because there isn't a good answer for that. That's discriminatory, and we just don't want them to do that to us. But it's okay because they're still in the majority. And as long as they're in the majority, they think they have the right to do what they want.
That was what that one girl said in Rowlett. When she was talking about the discrimination that was going on there, she said that, you guys are doing this to us, but we are growing in numbers. The nuns are growing, and when we have that ability, when we're the majority, we're not going to do the same exact thing to you. Yeah. And so I can't believe you're doing this to us right now.
Yeah, I mean, there was a good Facebook meme going around for a while saying, when we are the majority, let's just hope that we don't treat you like you've treated us.
I don't understand why they don't think it through. I've seen politicians who are elected to represent us say things like the Boston bombings and the Texas plant blowing up. I think it was actually it was Pat Roberts.
Yeah. Great man. Let's quote him all day long.
Yeah, he's awesome he's just like a comedy gold.
He gives us a lot of material.
He says he said that the reason why there's so much violence in America in the past week is because of gay liberals.
Oh, absolutely.
Now,
I see that connection.
Why don't they think this through? Why does their God care so much about where people put their privates, right?
Yeah.
That he wants people to bomb other people.
I mean, I think there's I might have the number wrong. I think it's 14 countries now in the world, now with New Zealand, allow gay marriage, and I haven't seen God wipe any of them off the face of the earth.
Right.
So I mean, it's just they have a huge disconnect with reality, obviously, and I think as we're going to see a big shift. It's become real apparent with the gun control vote the other day. I mean, that they don't represent us anymore. And Republicans, Democrats, everyone's starting to see that. When you have 90% of the country that wants universal background checks, and you have your politicians voting against it, they clearly don't represent us anymore. And that's going to come to harm them in future elections.
I think they're representing their lobbies.
Sure they are.
The people that are
And
funding
part of
them.
it, we have to understand, like, you can't, they're working for the people that pay them, and that
Right.
isn't us anymore. So it's like, can we really blame them? No, not when all their money comes from lobbyists.
Well, right and wrong though.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. We should blame them, but it's a messed up system. But I think we have a voice now. I mean, what you guys do, what other bloggers and podcasts do, is putting it out there. And luckily, I mean, it feels like anymore. Atheists own the internet. Like, this is our church, right? This is where we get together, and you can't stop that. I was having that talk with David Fitzgerald this morning that no matter what churches do, how many flashy lights and programs for kids and brainwashing they put together, the moment they come out, they're going to have to say, and kids, getting on the internet is a sin, because it's the only way they're going to stop it. But the moment they do that, you're going to lose the kids going, why would I, no single entity, no church, no anonymous hackers on earth right now have the power to take down the internet. It's literally impossible.
There are some theocracies in the world, unfortunately, where atheist bloggers are beheaded, stabbed, or arrested, and that's going on right now.
Yeah.
And
And
then
you have hundreds of thousands of people coming out and demanding they're getting hurt. Like, that's what religion can do. It's not what all religious people do, but that's what religion can do, and that's why we like to fight for secular values.
Right.
Because that's the product of theocracies taking hold of our government.
And as long as we support our democracy and make sure it doesn't become a theocracy, and we fight, laws that are banning free, uncensored access to the internet, at least in America, I don't foresee our government ever blocking Google like Iran and places have done. So at least in our country, kids can always come home from a Sunday service, hop online, and fact check what their minister said. I mean,